promote the podcast, right?
Right.
You need some help. Is that what you're saying, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so what is the name of your podcast and the theme of your podcast?
Pryor podcast, and it's about topics and more, but mainly about relationships.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear that. Topics and what? Sorry?
Topics and more.
Topics and more. Okay, there's your first problem, right? There's your first problem. You don't have anything specific, okay? If you have a shop, right? If you have a shop and it says on the front of the shop, stuff, right? Do you get customers? No customers come in because they don't know what's in the shop, right? Because it's stuff, right? You might get the odd random person who's curious, but, people who want to buy, I don't know, kids' toys go to the kids' toy shop, and people who want to buy shoes go to the shoe shop, and people who want to buy cars go to the garage. So, okay. So that's the first problem, okay? It's very hard to promote something that's non-specific. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
It does. Okay. So, what have been some of your recent topics on your podcast?
Oh gosh, I talk about dating, relationships, TV shows, news, all kinds of politics, multiple.
Okay. Super cool. So, dating, relationships, TV, news, politics. So you've got a broad variety of things there. So it's going to be, these are things that are socially interesting for people. So maybe something related to society. Also, the name of your podcast, K Pryor. That's your name, or where does that come from?
Yes, sir. That's my name.
Okay, cool. Right, it's good to use your name for branding. It's definitely very good, but you need a name that's you need a title that's going to hook people as well, because people need to know where they're going and what they're going there for. Yeah, so I mean, you can have interesting titles for each individual episode that's on your podcast, but you need also to kind of have a hook line. Like if you notice the main programs that we find on the internet and on television, they're not usually named after people. They're named after the kind of service that they're providing, or the content that's based within it. And the programs are usually quite specific. Art programs deal with art. Programs about, I don't know, cars deal with cars. News deal with news. It's great that people provide a broad variety of information. It keeps things turning, and it doesn't get boring, and that's super cool. But you still need to brand it in a very powerful and very strong way. With a strong name, maybe with some kind of logo attached to it, maybe with a nice picture of yourself. Let's see. I mean, that's kind of where I would begin. I mean, these topics are interesting. People want to talk about what's happening in the news. People always want information about dating and relationships, because people always have problems with those kinds of issues. So, so that's kind of where I would start. Can you explain what you've done so far, or any of the kinds of problems that you've encountered with your podcast?
I encountered, let's see, I haven't, I have a problem. I can't find someone here in the USA to podcast with.
What? You what?
And also, sometimes if people feel like you're not up to par with certain things, knowledge, they are not willing to listen. So you have to be very knowledgeable or educated on the topic that you are speaking on. I noticed that you don't get, it's hard to get viewership if you're not properly picking about the topics that you're podcasting about.
Oh yeah, well, that's great because that makes sense. That makes perfect sense because you need to know a little bit of something about what it is that you're talking about for sure. You need to know a little bit about that, and you don't want to mislead people either. So you need to 1 second. One of my kids is screaming in the other room. I gotta just come in off the balcony a sec. Wait a sec. Jazz, what's up? Are you okay? Well, it's my daughter Jazz. She's playing with her bike. 1 second. Are you okay, Jazz? You okay? Jazz, I'll be back in a minute, okay? If you need anything, let me know. Sorry. Family time. Dun, dun, dun.
How do you find the time to podcast around your family, to find the time? Because I noticed you have to truly, if you're going to be dedicated or do this, it's like you have to be organized and you can't just, put it off and put it back on again. So how do you find the time to podcast with young kids and a family?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what I do? Well, my life is all over the place anyway, so it works out because my timetable is different every day because I have different schedules in my work and in my meetings. What I do is I take advantage of the time when I have the time. If I find a break, 15, 20 minutes, then I'm like, okay, I've got 15, 20 minutes to do something. So you can do it two different ways. You can either schedule time in your day and, say, I'm going to do that specifically at that time, or you can just say, oh, look, here's a window of opportunity. Because I've had people who wanted to co-host with me last week, and I said, contact me at the weekend. And at the weekend was so completely insane that I didn't even have 5 seconds. I got 3 kids running around and a lot of other stuff to take care of. So there wasn't even 5 seconds there. But how do you find time? Just launch yourself into it, right? It's kind of like that. Do you ever go to the swimming pool and the water's cold and you don't want to get in the water? Have you ever had that experience?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, right. So you go to the pool, the water's cold, but you have to get in the water. And that's kind of what it's like. You just have a rough idea of what you want to do and then just hit record and go into it. And if you have to stop in the middle and have a break, then you have to stop and have a break. Just you put out content and see what the result is of the content. Always put out content and just monitor how people take it. Don't worry about it being fantastic quality because people are interested in what they're interested in. I just finished working with big company in the country that I live in, and they just produced a new product. It's absolutely fantastic. It's an upmarket product, and they can't get people to buy it. Right? They can't get and what it is. It's a chocolate product, okay? And they've got lots of competition, and there's all these companies producing cheap chocolate, and people are buying it, and the people are happy. Right, so this company's left with this great product and no customers because they're doing everything backwards, right? They produced the great product first rather than finding what to put on the hook in the water that the fish would bite at. Does that make sense?
It does.
So you put out content and you see what interests people, because whether or not the content is fantastic quality obviously helps if it's nice and it's polished and it's clear. But at the end of the day, people are searching for specific kinds of content. And let me give you an example. Okay, you can go on the internet and you can find torrents for movies that are just out in the cinema. People have gone into the cinema with a video camera and they filmed the film and then they put it on the internet. Now it's illegal to do that, but it happens. Okay, and people go on the internet and they download these terrible qualities of films and they watch them. You see, the quality is not as important as the content.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so people are going to watch these films even though they're not great quality because because the content is there, and other things are interesting for people. People want the information first. They want to say that they saw the film. They want an idea of what the film is about. You know, and they want to be able to talk about it with their friends. So there's all these kinds of other elements that are important. So don't worry so much about the quality. Just, you know, think about the first iPhone that was produced, right? I mean, within 6 months, it was out of date. You know, within 6 months, the quality of technology had surpassed the first iPhone. And after a year, they had to update it completely, right? You know, did they worry about the fact that it was going to be out of date in 6 months? No, they put it out. Okay. They put it out knowing they could build on that content. They could build on it. They could see what people would like. They get feedback. So that's the most important thing. Get feedback from people, and then build on that kind of principle. So you know, use what you've got where you are, and don't worry about anything else. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it's not, it's not. You know, keep moving forward.
Okay, I like that analogy. Okay, one more question for you before the time ends. Okay. Is there a financial gain by doing podcasting?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? The kids running around.
Is there a way that one can gain financial income from doing podcasting?
Okay, you're looking for an income from podcasting, yeah? Okay, if you're looking for
affiliates or some type of way that it can just be more than you.
Okay. Basically, a podcast is not a product, right? So it's very difficult to sell it. But a podcast can be used to sell a product. So that's how it fits into the bigger picture. Okay. First, you have to have a product or a service that you can sell. Then you integrate the podcast into promoting that product or that service. Directly making money from the podcast itself is, I think, in my personal opinion, not possible now because of the huge volume of podcasts that are going out every day. You know, I don't know how much it is, but, you know, I'm imagining it's like maybe 1 million hours of podcast a day get created or something like that. And there's a huge amount of material out there in the market. People have a great choice. They can be very selective about what they want. And, you know, look at what people are interested in. It's you've got two choices, I think. You go for a big market. Let's take a silly example. Football. Okay, millions of people love football, so you make a football podcast because there's some people who will be interested. Or alternatively, you find a niche market. You find I don't know, wheels for skateboards or something. That just popped into my head. Okay, because I think my son wants a skateboard. So you know that's a tiny little niche market that where you know, people, there are not many people are there. You can be unique. You can be individual.
Have you heard of YouTube?
Have I heard of
YouTube?
YouTube, yes. I have my own YouTube channel, which I've run for almost 10 years. It's got 1,500 videos on it.
Okay, so do you get revenue income from YouTube by doing videos?
I don't even bother with that because the number of views you require is so huge that I think it's only about 5 people per country that actually make money from it. So, and I'm not joking, right? The number of people who make money is far less than is marketed. Yeah. From it. Again, YouTube only works when you integrate it into a product or a service that already exists. It doesn't have to be your product or service. It could be somebody else's product or service. You could bring them your content. You can bring them your clients and your customers. Yeah. So that's how I would look at it personally. Hey, I hope the information has been useful for you. Your podcast is the Pryor podcast, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, super. Hey, if you need any more ideas, feel free to